Hello and welcome everybody, and thank you guys for joining my Remnant from the Ashes build video. My name is Wilky, and in this video I'm going to be showing you the current build that I'm using on what I did use on my normal campaign and currently on my hard campaign as well. I haven't touched Nightmare yet, so I do not exactly know how viable this build is going to be in Nightmare, but for normal and hard mode it's definitely a blast. It's fun to play for me. So far I had no trouble at all dealing with any bosses. Dealing with certain types of enemies worked just fine. So as you can see on the video here, there's both bosses I killed and just normal, how I fight normal mobs. And yeah, let's just dive right into this, and I'll dub this the one-shot, one-kill build. And as you can probably tell by the title or the footage here, that this is going to be revolving around the Slayer set and weapons that only hold one bullet, one arrow, one bolt in the magazine. So let's dive right into the setup or the loadout I'm using. Now, as I said, the set of choice is going to be the Slayer set because we need the Assassin set bonus. Now, that one has received a buff, not in the last patch, but a couple patches before that, or I think 2 patches before that. Before, it only was a timed buff for 1 second, which made it incredibly weird to use. It kind of puts you in harm's way if you wanted to maximize the DPS. Now, that buff does never run out. And it is shown by the little green icon on the top, in the bottom right. Now, reloaded, you can see this is the buff icon. Now, there's 2 things to remember about this one now. It doesn't run out, and it does only count if you actually hit something. If you just shoot something, it will not use up the buff. So you are guaranteed to get the additional damage, which is incredibly useful. You don't have to worry about missing your next shot. Obviously, you should try to hit your enemies, but even if you tend to miss, and sometimes we just miss shots, then the buff will not run out, which is incredibly good. The other thing that I already said in another video is that is the normal animation speed of reload, and by tapping the R key or the reload button, depending on what you play on, you can pretty much speed that one up. That helps incredibly good. Same goes for reload. Animation is not, or reload in general, is not cancelled by dodging. So you can shoot, start the reload, dodge, and you're pretty much good to go. So these are the 2 things that work incredibly well in conjunction with this build. So keep those in mind, and I highly suggest if you like using weapons like this, then definitely get used to hitting the reload key and not being afraid to dodge mid-fight or not having to worry about this. As far as the handgun goes, I think this is the only handgun that has only 1 bullet. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't unlocked everything yet, so there might be guns that also qualify, but hunting pistol is, I think, the only handgun that only holds 1 bullet, so it's definitely a must-have in the handgun slot. For long gun, we have a bunch of choices. Obviously, the crossbow is very much up there. Incredibly good crit rate, high range, 1 magazine, very good reload speed, incredibly good. Devastator works as well. I like the gun, but the reload is kind of annoying me. But it would also work just as fine if you like this gun more. Obvious choice would be Sniper Rifle, same reason here. And my still all-time favorite gun, the Spore Bloom. It's a single-shot shotgun. Like insane damage, I can tell you. It bursts enemies so hard if done right, and if your positioning is good and you can unleash 2 to 3 shots in a row, you'll absolutely demolish enemies when you're up close. So this one's really freaking good. Only downside is 5% crit chance, but it reloads incredibly fast. You can dish out huge amounts of DPS. So these are my optional choices. For now, I'm using the crossbow, as you can see in the videos also. I just love this weapon, especially after it's been fixed. So this is our choice for long gun. Melee weapon does not matter. Use whatever you like. I like Smolder. It looks good. It's a sword. It has a decent moveset, but you can use whatever you want. Armor, as I said, Slayer set. Amulet. Now, you potentially have seen other builds and people that use this kind of build or setup. For me, really, Gunslinger's Charm is the only viable choice. Now, there are other options, for example, 50% or 15% more damage once you drop the enemy below 50% HP. That one works, but really for me, the faster you reload, the faster you're able to shoot again, and this always applies. It doesn't need any condition like enemy health below 50% or anything else. you always get the 20% reload speed. You could argue that the fire rate is kind of useless on these weapons. That is true, but 20% reload speed is, I think, absolutely vital in order to dish out maximum damage. It helps incredibly when dealing with adds or smaller enemies because you can shoot faster. And really, most of the time, you'll just one-shot most things. If you do a headshot, pretty much everything dies. You can one-shot elite mobs. You can probably see, or if you've seen my leveling guide where I grinded a little bit, you can sometimes see me almost, or even actually one-shotting shrouds. And other elite mobs take heavy damage, so you can one-shot a lot of the enemies with this build. And reloading obviously helps with that. As far as rings go, I like the Jewel of the Black Sun. A different option would be Stone of Balance, flat 10%. There are two options, or two scenarios, I guess. One, if you have trouble keeping up the buff with Jewel of the Black Sun, swap it out. And in the final fight, there aren't really adds after you've collected the buff to deal more damage to the final boss. This is a little bit of a spoiler, but if you've been here, you know what I'm talking about. And after you kind of leave the nightmare again to damage the boss, you do not have adds to get the buff up. So this is obviously a place where I would switch out the Stone of Balance. So it would look something like this. And for the second ring, there are 2 to 3 choices. I don't have the Devourer's Loop. I'm not a fan of it, really. It's a little bit inconsistent since you already do a crack load of damage per shot. I don't really think the Devouring Loop is that great in that scenario. So what I would use, as I said, where is it? I have Stone of Balance, either Jewel of the Black Sun for maximum range damage. Another viable alternative would be Heartseeker for that increased crit damage by 15%, because as shown initially, Crossbow has a heavy 20% crit chance, Hunting Pistol has 10. And with the trade max Executioner, you're pretty much at a guaranteed 30% for Hunting Pistol, 40% for Crossbow. So you'll crit a lot, and crit damage will help. But really, for me, this is usually the build I use. I'm still in the leveling process, so I'll use Sage Stone. Another thing that's not exactly in line with the build in terms of damage would be Heart of the Wall for 10% movement speed, but that's really just a personal preference. Let's jump quickly into the trades before I double on more. The only thing that is 100% viable or mandatory, I think, is Quick Hands. Without Quick Hands, this build is gonna fall flat on your ass, or you're gonna take ages to reload some guns. So maxing out Quick Hands is important to keep up damage, to minimize downtimes in order to allow you to stagger enemies, kill enemies. Definitely the top most priority. Afterwards, I think it's Executioner. If you have Mind's Eye before Executioner, obviously Mind's Eye would be the choice. Then Kingslayer, then Exploiter. As you can see, I'm only trade rank 189, so I still have a long way to go in order to increase or maximize my damage. But really, Quick Hands in conjunction with Gunslinger's Charm makes it just incredibly good. I'm actually run out of ammo, so let me pick that one. You can shoot so freaking quickly with that. Last thing I want to talk about is the mods. Pretty self-explanatory here why I would use Hunter's Mark. First of all, it lasts incredibly long. It lasts for both weapons, so it's not like a certain thing that you either have to use the active weapon or it only buffs one weapon. It applies to the character rather itself, and even would apply to allies if you happen to play multiplayer. And it also increases crit chance, so you will get pretty much over 50% crit with a crossbow and almost 50% with the handgun. You'll crit a lot, you'll do a heck of a low damage, and if you manage to land certain blows or weak spots with crits, man, the damage numbers are gonna roll in, I'll tell you that. For the Hunting Pistol, really, you have plethora of choices. I like the Iron Sentinel. I think they're a little bit cheesy, and I show you a video where I kinda cheese the boss. I'm not sure if that's intended, I can see this being fixed, but we'll see about that. Generally, I just like Iron Sentinel. Anything works here, from damage reduction, Rattleweed, whatever you want to use. I even tried Veil of Black Tear. In some occasions, that's also quite a decent mod too. But really, you could use Wildfire Shot. It really doesn't matter. Use whatever you like. I like Iron Sentinel the most, which is why I use it, but the option is up to you. Anyways, as you've seen, in the footage before, and I'll add one boss fight afterwards. This one, I think, is incredibly fun to use. It plays a lot into how Remnant from the Ashes is slowed out with, like, you don't get to blast away the whole time, you kind of have to dodge and everything. So I think it kind of complements the sort of build. Let me know what you guys think, if there's anything else to potentially boost the damage, if you like this build, if you don't like this build. And I will catch you guys next time.